So I want to hear, we've talked about this in Florida, so the beginning of how you even got into, how it led to Influencive, but also how you got into doing ads and doing in the health industry and all that. Like, where did you start out and where did you even like grow up?
Dude, it started when I was...
School, everything.
Yeah, dude, it started when I was a kid. I failed school, like I was horrible in school, like I failed everything. Like school just didn't make sense to me. So I had to learn how to learn from an early age because I just didn't resonate with school at all. So
you have ADD?
I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe. Like never officially like diagnosed or anything like that, but my brain's always worked differently. I'm very curious about random details. So I had this curiosity when I was a kid. My grandfather said, hey, he put one of those old phones on the table, like with the big wire and the big box type thing. He said, take it apart. And if you take it apart, I'll give you all the change in my truck. And I said, oh, awesome. So I took it apart. He said, okay, but now you have to put it back together. So I was like, I learned from an early age, like all these little fine details about how things work, and it kind of built this natural curiosity. But I struggled in school. So I learned early on that I was just different, and I had to figure out like how to learn differently myself. So I started doing lots of things, and eventually it led to me to doing things like masterminds like we both do today, like finding groups of people that I connect with and realizing that I was a very visual learner. So if you teach me something like just talking, like I probably won't get it. But if you say, hey, Brian, like, okay, I'm going to show you how this works. This is how the bottle cap comes off. I'll become an expert in it if I can get my hands on it. So I learned early on.
Visually and functional.
Yeah, I realized early on that I had to touch things. I had to get my hands in there because I was so curious about how it worked. I didn't just want to hear about it. I was bored. So maybe the ADD thing's part of it. But
like I mean, me too. But I get what you're saying, and I can see why you like to interview people. And same for a mastermind. Like when somebody talks about something, you can like go into it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And see every detail.
Totally. So what happened was I was big into video games as a kid. And this is interesting because I think a lot of people, especially today maybe, a lot of parents are like, oh, don't let your kids play video games. But to me, that was like my trial to becoming an entrepreneur because I was like, how do I get more points? How do I beat the game? Like that was like being an entrepreneur to me because I was figuring out, and I got really good at certain games.
What's your favorite game?
I mean, I was a big Resident Evil fan.
Dude, I used to be so addicted to Call of Duty.
Call of Duty,
and that's where I stopped in college. I remember one day I played for 10 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do this. I'd have a 12-pack of beer. I would be playing.
Same here, yeah. Call of Duty was like...
It's addictive.
Yeah. Were you like a sniper or what?
Oh, no, I just play I wouldn't do the actual games where it was multiplayer. I'd go through the missions. And no joke, like, I would smoke hookah, which is like a, not like a cigarette, but I'd sit there and smoke hookah, drink beer, and watch this back in my college days because I got a 1.6 at GPA and everything. But it was fun. But then I realized I'm so addicted to this because I'm like, oh, let's try to beat it, get better. And I realized I can't play games anymore.
So I want to ask you a question. So did you finish college, right?
I did.
Because I didn't finish college. And do you think that was like extremely valuable, or if you could go back, would you have started something else sooner?
College was not. So what I learned in college is I got experience. And I met somebody who led me to the book Think and Grow Rich, which changed my mindset. And I always talk about that. But I tell people in college now, because I have so many college kids reach out, you figure out what you really want to do. It's specialized knowledge. And the thing I hate about college, and I'm sure this is why, like, I failed chemistry the first time around. I failed Library 101. I failed these bullshit classes that you don't need.
I don't even know what Library 101 would actually be.
It's like trying to figure out how to find books and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? But no, I realized that I didn't like this stuff, but when I got into stuff I really liked, I focused in. So when I invented Arctic Stick, it was actually, I developed it in a class project.
I forgot about that.
So I was all in. But looking back on it, I wouldn't change my journey. I liked it. But anybody in college now, if you want to do business, you know how you learn business? You do business and you fail, you learn from it, you make pivots, and you keep going. You don't need college.
Right, because there's an interesting thing about the education system. I feel like, and I'm curious if you agree with
fucked.
this. Well, here's the thing. School, and this is contrary to what entrepreneurs think, school teaches us that failure is bad, correct? So
comfortable.
Yeah, so school teaches us failure is bad, but as an entrepreneur, I feel like you almost have to fail because you have to learn how to progress. So, I mean, sure, if everything just magically works, that's amazing, but that's usually not what happens. So those small failures, you learn something from, and you change for next time.
So it's 100% correct because for me, I've done so many things, and along the way, you slowly get to where you really need to be. And it's like your past, my past, we've learned things, like developing a product and spending $100 grand on Arctic Stick. I will not see that money back, but I learned marketing. I learned crowdfunding.
Yeah.
I learned how to be in front of a camera.
Exactly.
So I guess what I'm getting at is you have to do a bunch of things. You have to just leap in. It scares the hell out of you.
Yep.
But that's the only way you're going to get to your big things you really want in life.
Totally.
And learning about yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still learning about myself, but for you, like, at the beginning, you're probably just figuring out who you are and what you really liked.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what happened for me was I was playing a lot of video games when I was a teenager, and I had friends that were, like, into hacking and, like, all these, like, crazy things with computers. This is, like, I'm dating myself. This is, like, 16 years ago now. And,
how old are you?
32.
Oh, okay. We're so close.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was getting into cars. Okay, this is when Fast and the Furious first came out.
Oh,
okay, it's first Fast and Furious. I had like just got my driver's permit or license or something like that, and I was like, all right, this is so cool. And I realized there were certain things that people wanted for their cars, and they were like, oh, nobody knew where to buy them. And I was just so into cars, and you know those things that shoot the flames out of the car?
Yep.
So I sold those on eBay. So I sold fire. That was my first business, selling fire.
Are them legal?
I think it's, I don't think it was officially not legal back then. Maybe today it's probably not legal, but it was promoted for car show use only.
Yeah.
I don't know if people use it in the street then. Anyways, so I sold those. It went really well. Somebody approached me and said, well, I want to buy your business from you. And I was like, what do you mean my business? Like, what business? Like, I didn't even understand. And they're like, oh, your business, it's making this amount of money. I'll pay you this multiple of your revenue for it. And I was like,
really?
Okay. So I was like 18 and 19 at that point. I think I was 18 and a half, something like that. Somebody offered me, but they bought the business. I signed this contract. Everything went well. I was like, oh, cool, I'm an entrepreneur now. What happened was I didn't read the fine print of the contract. So I signed this like crazy non-compete, non-solicitation, and I ended up, a long story, but I ended up getting sued and had to pay back like most of the money. So like I was I was like, oh, awesome, I sold this business. I was super excited. But what happened was when all that went down, I was like, man, like I got a taste of like what it was like to like sell something and like make a bunch of money, and I was again,
and then lose it,
right?
So what I want to ask you? So what was going through your mind through this process? Like your feelings from the beginning when you sold it to when you got sued. Like, what was your mind thinking at that point? Like, what I'm going to do next, or am I invincible? Like, what was your thought process?
I felt invincible, and then life kind of smashed me down.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a malicious thing on my part of what happened, but I won't go into details. But like, because I can't. But basically, I didn't read the fine print in the contract, and I was a kid. I was young. I didn't even have a lawyer look at it. I just signed it away. I was like, oh, this looks fine. I signed it. In something that wasn't even really related in my mind, ended up biting me in the ass afterwards.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I learned a lot from that, but that got me hungry, and I realized, okay, there's all this traffic on eBay. I can sell these products. What else can I sell? So I couldn't do anything else on eBay, and that was related to the problem.
Yeah.
So I started selling things and figuring out how to generate traffic outside of eBay. So that got me into like early SEO, in the early days. So I started figuring out how to leverage all this traffic. I had one day. It probably took about 3 years to really crack the code. But after about 3 years of like trying to figure out how to get traffic and things like that, after that point, I had one day where I had this crazy server set up because I was starting to generate a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
I had all these load balance servers like stacked upon each other, not physically, but at a server place. And I had 1 million visitors in one day to a site.
1 million?
1 million.
In one day?
In one day. It crashed this whole like thing. Like I had I think it was like 11 servers load balanced together just to support the traffic. Because I had some other days that were like 50,000 visitors, 100,000 visitors, but I had one day it just went absolutely bananas with 1 million visitors. And this is across thousands of pages. I was having people and content created for lots of different keywords, like early SEO, where it was more like creating content for lots of different terms.
Was this for your business, or were you direct to another page? Or like, what was the page for?
So at this point, I had just ads on the page.
Yeah.
So this was the transition. So I was like, okay, I'm getting money from all these. Actually, it was a funny story. I walked into my dad's office one day. He's a CFO of a newspaper. He knows a lot about money and accounting and stuff like that. And I said, I think I need an accountant. And he's like, why? And I said, well, I made $7,000 yesterday from these ads. Like I think I need to formalize something.
Yeah.
And he couldn't comprehend it. He was like, $7,000 last year? And I was like, no, yesterday. And he was like, he just couldn't comprehend it. It was funny. And he asked me like 15 times and thought I was selling drugs online probably.
People can't comprehend when you think like
yeah.
you can close 10,000, like a lot of money in a short period of time.
Yeah, when you, especially with the internet,
yes.
and then especially back then, it was like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, honestly, it wasn't the highest quality content I was creating back then. It was more just like, I was just so curious about how it all worked. I was like, how far can I push this? And that's why I got to that 1 million visitors in one day. So, but what I realized at that point was, I said, wow, someone's making all this money from these ads. How do I sell, how do I get to these products and cut out the middleman?
Yeah.
So I got into like affiliate marketing and like saying like, I'm gonna sell this water bottle and you pay me $2 instead of some middleman with an ad, right? So I started marketing health products and fitness products and just all sorts of different products on my pages and figured out how to sell, started learning how to sell things online.
So I want to go into the health product stuff, but first, so for you to direct that 1 million like visits to that page, what are like 2 or 3 main things you did, like hacks to be able to get that traffic there? Because that's an insane amount of traffic.
Yeah.
Like what is it, just if you were going to give the best advice for somebody, if they want to be able to get that much traffic, I mean, that was back then, but how did you do it?
Things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was generating thousands of pages per day. So I was having a combination of writers and user-submitted content and various things like that to create lots and lots of content, and I was ranking for thousands of keywords per day.
Yeah.
And again, this is in the early days of Google, and today you can't even do that. So today, if you want lots of traffic, I mean, I think if you utilize social, like here's an interesting thing. People dismiss social networks that they don't have a big following on. So like people, I hear it every day, Twitter's useless. I said, well, you know I generate a quarter of my traffic for Influencive from Twitter.
From Twitter.
And they're like, what? And then they start using Twitter.
Yeah.
So I think that I think it's really becoming a master of every traffic source, I think is the way today to generate traffic. People like to focus only on specific ones, but if you want real traffic today,
get them all.
You need to get them all. Like even Pinterest, another example. Like I was at a mastermind recently, this girl was talking about Pinterest and she generates all this traffic from Pinterest and I'm like, oh man. So I jump on Pinterest. Even me, I dismiss Pinterest.
I guess I have an account, but I'm never on. I don't even know how to even do it.
So like that's another example. Like there's all these sources of traffic out there. Even something like Dig that's like not even really super relevant anymore. Like you can still generate lots of traffic. StumbleUpon's another example. Like if you really like, and maybe you have to buy a course, maybe you have to find a friend that knows it really well. But however you figure it out, like becoming a master of all these sources and realizing there are traffic on all these sources, but people dismiss them. That's like the biggest tip, and I know that's kind of like, you have to dig in more to like specific networks of how to leverage them, but there is a lot of traffic.
But once you do that, you become omnipresent because you're on every platform. Because I mean, every platform has their own tribe.
Exactly.
And you look at Instagram, which is a younger audience, and I'm starting to do more, and I'm seeing Wayne's stories. I mean, for Snapchat, do you do Snapchat anymore?
I've just started like doing more Snapchat. Yeah.
So I've done Snapchat hardcore, and I noticed my audience cut in half when Insta stories came, and more people like went in. But now I'm doing both, and I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe this.
Yeah.
But you got to stay on all platforms.
I mean,
that's why, and it's a full-time job. Like I'm snapping. Oh wait, I got to take a snap.
Yeah. What I think you can do is I think you can like get people around you eventually when you're at that stage to help with, depending on people's businesses and where they're at, when you can get, even if it's a virtual assistant, I feel like. I have people that do my for my Instagram images, like I approve things, but I have people that create those for me.
Well, we do the same, but it's taking too, like as of now, like we're taking photos now, but we're always taking photos because that's about your personal brand, which I'm huge on personal brand because it is so much, like people look and they see your pictures, your videos that represents who you are, and you become an influencer in the industry. And when they see that, like, oh, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
I want to work with him. And then it doesn't matter what you pay or charge anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so from there, so I learned, so that was like early on figuring out the psychology of what it takes to get people to buy things online.
Yeah.
So I know you knew all this too. And
so what is the psychology?
Well, that's what's so fascinating is people think that there's one specific set of like principles, one specific set of things that will get someone to buy a product. The real truth is that you have to constantly test things all the time because what happens is the page goes stale. So like this will work for a while, but then after a while it's like, nah, we need to make an adjustment. Yeah. So what I do is when I'm selling products, I constantly am split testing different variations. Like you're testing a red button versus a green button. And depending on the type of traffic that's coming in, red and green might convert differently for those two types of traffic. So if you're not actually testing it and mapping like what's causing the sales and what's causing the conversions, you don't know. And you might be leaving a ridiculous amount of money on the table. A lot of people do this with courses. They'll have like one page created, they think it looks great and everything, and they just leave it there. And it either works really well or it doesn't. And then they give up. They say, it didn't work too well. But it's like, for me, that's crazy, because I would be, there's the simplest tools are out there now. There's one that's called VWO.com, I think, Visual Website Optimizer. You literally just click on the button and say, like, I want to test green and red and blue, and it'll just run like 40 versions of your page for you. It just creates them for you. You do nothing, no code involved at all.
Well,
what's
that program?
VWO.com.
VWO.com.
Yeah. So like for your headline, for example, you can write. You go on your page. It'll load your page in the screen. You can then, I feel like I'm an ambassador for this company or something. But
I feel that for Canon 70D. I'm ready to promote it on TV.
But I just love this tool. So like for a headline, for example, it'll load your page. You can click on the headline, write another headline. So it can be like, Brandon T. Adams, Secret to Success. Brandon T. Adams, 5 Secrets to Success. Brandon T. Adams, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is. You can just rewrite them all, and it'll load different versions of the page right there when people come to it, and they'll rotate and say, okay, this traffic source resulted in this page working, and this one is, so it maps it all.
So you test them all out, and then you find the page which obviously the people that are reading it are converted.
Exactly. Because what most people do is they try to find like a specific formula and just create one version of the page. But what I found is that almost is impossible, because you're leaving so much on the table.
There's almost no formula, because it's always changing.
Exactly.
And you always got to adapt.
Exactly. So this is a great way to, and then the nice thing about this is you can sort of guess. You can say, let's try an aggressive one. Let's try a not so aggressive one. Let's try one in the middle. And you don't have to spend ridiculous amounts of money on training and courses and things like that, because you can just test it out yourself and based on some reasonable knowledge from some free sources maybe.
So let's go. So you obviously know like the page SEO optimization. Let's talk about like Facebook ads and then your affiliate marketing. Can you talk about like some of the things we've talked about before, like Candy Crush or doing things with fitness and like some of those things you did, and what the key to that, because most people don't even understand that. Like for one thing I see right now, a great example is Arnold Schwarzenegger. They have the mission game, you see that? And they're promoting the hell out of it. And I know it's data, but like what is, for people that see that, what is the whole point of that?
Okay, so you're talking about the affiliate marketing and the psychology of getting.
I got two questions. Okay. Yeah. So the first one is, you see, let's talk about I don't know the name of the game, but Arnold Schwarzenegger's like the rep for it. And the mission complete.
Tanks and guns.
Yeah. So what's the whole like where the money's actually made there?
Okay, so there's two levels of that. So there's the app themselves. They're making money on in-app purchases. There's a whole psychology behind it. It's actually really interesting. Candy Crush was one of the originals that did this. So, you've been to the movies, obviously, people have been to the movies. Whether or not you drink soda and eat popcorn, on some level, you'll notice that before every movie, there's the sound of popcorn popping and soda swishing, right? And for a second, even if you don't like those, you taste it, okay? So it's subliminal programming, okay? So that's what's happening in the movies. The same thing happens in apps. So like, people probably can think of like the cha-ching sound at casinos, right? And it's basically programming you to want to put coins in and want to spend money and interact. So apps use the same psychology. So there's lots of psychology in all this subliminal programming to get people to respond and to engage. So that's some of the stuff they do to trigger in-app purchases. And I mean, the interesting thing about apps is that it's a game. I mean, any app that's making a lot of money is a game. Whether or not it's actually a game, it's a game because of gamification. So what's happening, they're basically challenging you to, even fitness apps, right? There's now fitness apps that are like give you points and like give you credits and things like that towards something else, right? And that's all carefully planned in a gamification way because it's like a video game. So that's really the secret for anyone that's building apps. If you're building an app and you want it to be successful, it's a game. Think about it like a game. That you need points, you need in-app purchases, you need things to engage people, because that's the other thing too. Like you'll have a game like racing a car or something, but you want the shiny red car that's a little bit faster. So you're challenging people to buy those and to get more points to get those. So
the game is almost priming them to be in like the competitive, like I want more to buy.
Yeah.
And so I know this, I can't think, Words with Friends, I think.
Yeah.
Years ago, I remember when I was so competitive with my family that I remember buying flowers for my girlfriend at the time just because I wanted to get more points. And I think to myself, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
But it was because of that competitiveness, but also they bring in other products too, right?
Totally. it's the same with social media, because like social media is a game. Facebook is a game, Twitter is a game, Instagram is a game, Snapchat is a game, because you have followers. That's a number. So it's like, it's a competition. Like, let's not mistake this. Social media is a competition.
Yeah, because we're looking at, how many likes do I have?
Yeah, on the deepest level, not like on a surface level of ego per person or whatever, but on the deepest level, the psychology of it is it's a game. It's a competition. Right? So like that's what's actually triggering people. People want to see those likes. They want to see those followers. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there, right? People wouldn't care about it otherwise.
You know, this makes me think, have you ever watched, I hardly ever watch TV. I'm busy filming my own stuff, but have you ever watched Black Mirror on Netflix?
I've seen it. I know what it's about. I haven't watched the episodes, but.
So there's one episode where we have this technology in the future where our lens, like our eyes have these things put in and we can see things. Well, after you have when you're talking to somebody or in their presence, when you leave, you rate the experience, 3, 4, 5.
Like Uber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what happens is, if you are not above a 4 or above, then like it hurts you getting a loan for something. It hurts everything. Yeah. And the whole thing is people are addicted to getting that likes. Yeah. Exactly. Which is insane, but we live that way and we don't even realize it.
People don't realize it. We're in a world, we have credit scores. We have all these things that essentially rate us. I mean, they have dating apps now that give you like ratings and stuff, right? I'm not in that world, but I know that it exists. So yeah, that's really how it is.
So this is really interesting, but I do want to get into affiliate marketing. So I'm fascinated with like the fitness products and everything. Mm-hmm. Talk about your experience from affiliate marketing with the fitness industry and how you made that really successful in the time.
You know, here's the thing. I love the health and fitness industry and stuff like that. And I think that there's a formula out there for what triggers people to buy something, right? Mm-hmm. People want to gain more muscle. They want to look thinner. They want to look prettier, handsomer, buffer, whatever, right? Yeah. So there's the psychology out there to trigger those feelings in people and get them to buy things. So that's when you're promoting something on that level, it becomes a psychology game of how do we, like women want to look 10 years younger, guys want to look buffer or thinner usually, something like that. So there's these different triggers that trigger depending on the demographic, and realizing what those are in these cases is what gets people to buy. And it's the problem with the health and fitness industry is that there's so much now. It gets to be you have to be aggressive, more aggressive. So people have to be really aggressive to get sales and conversions. So I've been out of the health and fitness industry for a while now because I didn't like where it was going in terms of like how aggressive you had to be to actually get people to buy things. And I just felt like I wanted to do things that I really loved and resonated with. So
not so
much for the money.
So in the area where we're at now, it really comes down to celebrities and influencers that they get to sign on because people buy.
But I love that. I mean, I feel like that's the best way now to sort of do it, because instead of making crazy claims and all these things, you can just say, hey, Bob is using this product, and they can either buy it or they don't. So I think that the influencer game is way better. I love that versus like.
That's why I preach for everyone to become an influencer in their industry. Yeah. So like there's so many influencers out there that like I don't know because I'm not in that space. Yeah. But if you're in a certain space, like for example crowdfunding. If people talk crowdfunding, I would be known in that. And there's certain areas like marketing, like other areas that I don't know the people, but when you're known in that area, people will buy from you if you are the star in that field. That's why everybody should become the star in some way.
Yes. And I think what people do wrong is they try to like generalize themselves instead of like a specific thing. So like you're known in crowdfunding. Like I know that like if someone talks crowdfunding, your name's gonna come up in 5 seconds. Yes. Right? So depending on where you're at, like with writing and online publications, my name comes up really fast usually in press and stuff like that. So I think you want to get specific with what, if people are becoming an influencer, the thing they do wrong is they generalize too much. I do this and this and this and this and this. Okay.
Nobody knows them.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at John Lee Dumas, for example, because I mean, I became good friends with him after we raised a lot of money. Yeah. But podcasting, when you think podcasting, everybody knows him. Exactly. But after he knocked podcasting out of the park, then we introduced the Freedom Journal, which he knocked out of the park. Then the Master Journal. Yep. So most people, what they got to do is just first at least knock one thing out of the park, and then so many opportunities come.
Oh, absolutely.
So for you, I'm so excited, and this is why I've become good friends with you, and I love your vision. So you've transitioned, you have Influencive.
Yeah.
So tell me about why you even decided to do that and like what your vision, because I am so behind it. Like there's entrepreneur.com, there's Forbes, nothing wrong with them, but Influencive, I see where you're at and where you're going, and I believe in it so much.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, the reason I started that was because it started as well, the first step was I wanted a place for myself to write at. So I just started writing. And
that's how it usually begins, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, I want a place to write, honestly. And what happened was, like, my friends would come, different friends would come and say, hey, I'd love to write for that too. And I said, okay. And what I started to realize after a while was all these other platforms, which I respect so much, there's a lot of editing and changing going on. So like, and here's an interesting example. If we were doing this video right now, and I were to say, Brandon, after you do this, I'm gonna do a voiceover track and change what you say. Is that okay? You'd be like, no.
No.
Like,
no,
somebody else is gonna do a voiceover saying something else. And we're gonna change it and shift it around a little bit. It's not gonna be you anymore, but you'll be physically, like, you'll still see yourself, but it'll be somebody else talking. You'd be like, no.
Bullshit.
That's what happens with online writing. People, just content's changed and manipulated. So what I do is I give people a shot, and I'll say, look, we're just gonna put it out there. We're gonna correct your grammar, but we're pretty much just gonna put it out there. You know, unless there's something way off or something, it's pretty much not gonna be.
It's gotta be real, not bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If it's authentic and that's why. So I look for people that are just can give something authentic and, you know, valuable like that.
One thing I see, and I'm not going to name different outlets out there, but there's a lot of bullshit out there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of self-proclaimed, like, I have the money, I have the cash, I'm the millionaire, I'm on top, and it's fake. Like they're renting out a mansion or they're at a friend's place, but they're not real. Exactly. And online, it's perception. Then what they end up doing is, I mean, there's a whole fake it till you make it, but then there's a whole take it to a level that's unethical in my mind.
Yeah.
And what happens is these people get publicity for something they're not.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there that are grinding entrepreneurs that deserve it, and they're not getting the publicity they should.
Exactly.
And that's what bothers me. So what I love about Influencive is the fact that you're really highlighting people that deserve it and doing big things.
Exactly. It's tough, honestly. It's tough to sort of figure all that out because I mean, even right as we speak right now, there's 100+ articles that are waiting to be published. So it's like we have to, and we publish a lot of those because we like all these writers and everything. So it's just a balancing game of like, when do you put it out? You know, all that kind of stuff.
No favoritism, no promotion-wise, like self-promotion.
Yeah.
And you don't have time to like, obviously make sure if that's valid or not.
Yeah.
Like you have to go based off, everything's based on what somebody says or the credibility.
Right. And I think we focus a lot on like people's opinion. And that's, I feel like we started to create this environment where it's not about, I don't want, like if you write an article, I don't want you to back it up with facts. Like I just want to hear what you really think. Mm-hmm. Like you don't need to back it up with data. Like that's what other publications do. That's fine. That's totally their space. I get that. But I'm not in that. I'm not in that space. Like I just want to, like this video right now, we're not going to, like everything we talk about, backed by science, like it would just be weird, I feel like.
It's based off our own experiences.
Yeah.
And if whether people want to believe it or not, it's just what we've done and what works for us.
Exactly. So, it's, you know, the other thing that I found different with Influencive is that a lot of publications that I also respect so much, there has like a specific, like you have to write once a week or twice a week or something like that. And I feel like writing is a creative outlet.
You have to feel it.
Yeah, so like I'm not gonna, if you were writing for Influencive, I'm not gonna force you to write every week because if it's not,
it's pushed.
Yeah, it'd be like forcing yourself to do an interview with someone you don't like or you don't want to do it or whatever reason, right? You wouldn't do it. You'd just be like, no, I really want to do this or I really don't want to do it. Yeah. So I feel like, so I just say put it out whatever you want. You can do one article ever or you can do 100 a week, whatever you feel inspired to do, just that's what you should do.
You started Influencive, was it 14 months ago?
About 14 months ago.
Okay, 14 months ago. So what is your vision with it? Because you've gained like a big following.
Yeah.
And you have something really awesome here. So what do you really want to do with this? And how, I always want to know, how are you going to monetize it? What's your monetization with it?
So Influencive really started as something that I didn't even want to make money from. That's how it started. I was like, I just want to put something out there.
That's the part I love.
Yeah, I wanted to reach as many people as possible and inspire and motivate as many people as humanly possible. Like I want to get to 1 billion people a year. Like Forbes, I think, reaches 1 billion people a year or something like that. I want to get to 1 billion people a year. So that's my goal. And that's kind of driven me. Like I just want to reach all these people and inspire them. Like that's more important to me than the revenue. On the revenue side, you know, we have some ads on the site. Like it's nothing aggressive or anything like that. We're going to start doing some mastermind events. Yeah. So like I've had a ton of people approach me like, can I come and train with you and do these things? So we're now going to put on a mastermind event. The first one's going to be in June this year. It's just gonna be a small thing. So that'll be the only like official monetization. And that's really just because in a mastermind, like it's not me, like I'm putting together a group of awesome people that have been around Influencive that just wanna like get in the same room and just go to town with each other. So that I think will be the focus of the monetization. Like I said, up until this point, it hasn't been an aggressive push to monetize because here's what I've noticed, and this is what people do wrong. They want to build an online publication or anything, and they push things down your throat from day one. And then the growth is impossible because it's like, oh, Bob's just trying to make money off of this, right? So I want to create this environment where people just, they love, it's like look at Facebook, right? They went for a long time without making money because the growth was insane. So like, and I'm not saying it's like a bait and switch where I'm going to turn on all this monetization all of a sudden. I promise you we're not going to be selling lots or maybe even any courses or internet marketing style products. Really, the monetization would mostly be on the mastermind side.
So, I mean, the thing is you're building this audience up, and it's like, what's the book by Gary Vee? Jab, 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 right hook?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. But you're not really, you don't have like a huge, like, hey, I'm going to market to this, but it's building this huge audience. But what happens is when you get that data, the money does come.
Exactly, and that's what I've realized. Like, honestly, people have always asked me, like, how do you network with all these people? And how do you, like, how's your advertising agency gotten so big? And it's like, the first thing for me has just been being a good person. Like, and I feel like that's the mistake a lot of people make is they always try, especially with entrepreneurs, especially with an internet marketing background, no disrespect, it's always about money, 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 money. And to me, it's like, maybe I'm biased because I've been pretty successful up to this point, but I don't think so because I think really at the end of the day, people want to connect with people that they like and they feel like are doing good things and they're going to help them. Like, I'm not hitting you up ever asking you for favors and weird things, right? Like I'm not saying, Brandon, can you do this and do this, this, this.
Yeah.
Like I just want to genuinely help, right? Yeah. So I feel like the old school, like how to win friends and influence people, like Dale Carnegie, like just
a must read.
Yeah, it's a must read, right? So I feel like I've learned in life that it's if you try to correlate things directly, as weird as it sounds for an entrepreneur to say, if you try to correlate everything to money, I feel like it doesn't
So
work.
That's why I connect with you so much because we're both authentic, and I know that. That's the thing. Most people, they're always trying. Like I like making money too.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
cool.
I do.
I'm an entrepreneur. I mean.
But also, like I like to add value for like you or anybody else. I want to help them on their journey. Yeah. And I know, I mean, eventually down the road there'll be something like, hey, if I'm going to do a book launch or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But too many people have just the money mindset, and what happens is if they have the money mindset, it doesn't get them there. These people can see that shit a mile away.
Totally. If I could make no money and just live comfortably and just live the lifestyle that I want, I would be fine. Like I don't need like to show off anything. I just.
People don't realize they think the money is what makes them happy, but it's really the experience and the things that you can get.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times I found out, I'm sure you're the same, it's the little things that don't even, like I don't care about a fancy car or anything, but like I just spend some money on some film equipment and creating videos. I'll spend money on that all day because it creates content that I can put out and people get inspired and motivated and educated by that. Yeah. And for you, that's again, I have the same vision. I want to impact 1 billion people in a positive way through video, through content, and help them. And yes, some money will come, but it's just doing things that actually make a difference.
Exactly.
Not just selling shit.
Exactly.
Because there's so much shit out there that I get so fucking frustrated because there's so much out there that it's bullshit. And I get you got to monetize. And for me, like I know if you really know you can help somebody, you should make sure you work together.
Right.
And for me, like I help people build brands and I help people raise money because I had experiences in my own life where I struggled, where I couldn't get that. So I want to help my younger self. Yeah. Even I'm 27. I help people that are older than me too, but try to help them get closer to their goals in a certain way.
Right.
So I think the lesson we learn is be more authentic and come from a place of actually wanting to help and add value.
Absolutely. Here's the interesting thing, and this is people ask me like my mindset approach to networking and business a lot. So when I'm meeting, like when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, like I think the mindset most people have is, okay, what can I get from this person? I'm thinking, what can I help him with? Like, what can I do? Like, people ask me what they can do for me, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I'm not even thinking about that. Like, it's not even in my mind. Like, I'm just trying to feel out how can I give value to this person? How can I help them? So that's my 100% focus when I'm meeting new people and when I'm just in general. And it's not that I'm expecting anything in return. It's just I know how this universe works.
So, okay, since you brought this up, so one thing I teach people or try to help them is figuring out how to connect with anyone. You're really good at that. I'm really good at that, how to connect with either billionaires, celebrities. It's really coming to them at a point of, I really just want to help you. Because I know you get this. I get this.
Yeah.
People reach out and they say, hey, how can I add value to you? But they're cheesy. They don't mean it.
Yeah.
Or how can you mentor me? Or one thing I do, and you talk about Dale Carnegie. One thing I do is if people reach out and they really want my mentorship, I put them through a task and I say, here, go listen to 5 of my podcast shows, read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, read the book How to Win Friends, Influence Others by Dale Carnegie. When you're done, contact me. I'll give you 30 minutes and let's talk.
Exactly.
You know how many people follow through? I've had probably 4 or 5 people in my life follow through, and the ones that follow through, I usually help them, introduce them to someone, or they work for me.
How old are the ones that follow through?
Surprisingly, so one of them was 21.
Yeah.
The one I'm talking to now, he's just about to follow through.
Yeah.
I think he's teenager.
Yeah.
And then some people in their 30s.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
they actually did it.
Yeah.
But see, most people, it's whatever.
I was just yesterday, we were doing a live stream here. Mark Lack was here, a couple people, and there was a 13-year-old on the Instagram live, and he was the most engaged person. We threw out some offer, hey, just hashtag something and do something. And he was all over it.
Next Caleb Maddox.
Yeah. I was like, man, kids these days.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Have you met Caleb Maddox in person?
Not in person. No.
I didn't bring this up because I feel like he's my younger brother, but Caleb is somebody that understands the whole adding value and doing things not just for the money, because his dad pounded that in his head.
Yeah.
But there's so many people at the younger generation, even mine, which give a bad name sometimes, is they feel like they're entitled and they don't understand the fact of, hey, I need to just help people. I need to do things. You ever seen, you've read the book Utility, right?
Yeah.
Jay Baer?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I take things too.
Yeah.
It's keep adding value, putting stuff out there, and eventually it comes back.
I feel like this is my mindset too. I as much as possible, and I was going to say the word try, and I'm going to tell you why I don't use that word.
I hate the word try.
Yeah.
Try, or I'm trying, going to, or what's some other words? I think I can, or whatever. You just got to say you will.
I feel like more people need conviction in what they're doing. And those conditional statements, it programs the wrong thing. It trains you to not even really believe in yourself. It's not an ego thing. That's what I want to point out.
It's not. So I'm in a basic training here now, and it's patterns. Yeah. So one thing that I see with people is how they communicate. Whatever they say gets in their head. So whatever your mind conceives and believes your mind achieves.
Yeah.
So when you say, I'm going to try to do this, I think I can do this. No, you got to say, I will do this. Yes. I am going to do this. This is me.
Right.
It mentally, people are you're just saying that. No, it's mentally wires you. Every day I do a warrior chant to prepare my mind that I can do something.
Yeah.
It's so vital. What is your thought on how this people... I see so many people do this wrong.
Yeah, I feel like, and I correct myself if I catch myself doing
Me
it.
too.
I feel like we get programmed from an early age to do certain things and to say certain words, and depending on our upbringing and parents and all these different factors. But I feel like many people have to reprogram themselves, right? Even the brain, our brain, this is interesting. Our brain is designed for us to fail because it's designed to keep us alive, right? John Azaroff talks about this a lot, neuroscience and stuff. And what happens is, because it's designed to keep us alive, everything else, if we have something new, like a new business idea, maybe not for us, but for people that are not an entrepreneur, their brain's no, that hasn't kept you alive. Don't do it. So our own brain is fighting against us. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I rewire myself to think differently, to when I feel that trigger going on of no, you shouldn't do it, do it. I'm not gonna jump off a cliff, but for an entrepreneur, because what happens is we meet with, let's say we meet up and we're let's start this new business idea, we're fired up. Yeah. What could happen is we go home and we go, you know what, it's gonna be a lot of work. Yes. That's gonna be hard. We're gonna have to put money into this. It's gonna take a lot of time. I should probably do this instead. And we talk our brain.
We think of things why we shouldn't do it, and we try to self-sabotage it.
Exactly.
So this is funny you bring this up. So I'm guessing when you were raised, and me too, you had your own beliefs.
Yeah.
But when you got to a certain point and you got introduced to different books and things, you realized what is actually possible.
Yes.
So for me too, I made a decision. I used to, I do now, but when there's something that I feel like I'm scared or I feel like I shouldn't do it, I've automatically because I still get this, oh, I don't know, because we're just wired that way.
Yeah.
But what I know to do, like you said, is I have to do it now.
Exactly.
Because then I know, because after doing it for a while, it becomes a track record, but I found out after you do it, you always get rewarded.
Totally. And this is going to sound a little corny to some people, but some people will really resonate with this. Instead of listening to this, I listen to this, because this is the intuition. So for me, it's when my brain can trick me a lot of the times, but this is never wrong, right?
Yeah, your gut and your heart. Your brain's funny how things work.
Yeah.
But it's right. We're wired. We're almost set up to fail or be comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Like I operate a lot on gut and like a lot on feeling and intuition, more so than my brain, because I feel like my brain's more likely to trick me, and my gut and my instinct is probably not.
So we went in a whole nother direction I planned, but this is good stuff. So I want to go over a couple more things before we end this, because we obviously are going to do a tour and stuff, but what do you see, because you're like like out of all the people I know, you know this stuff better than most people. Where do you see in the next 5 years with social media? Where do you see with how things are going in the online world? Where's it going to go? Where's the transition?
Well,
technology, everything.
You know, I think what's going to happen is like we're seeing like a lot of similar features across social like networks and things like that, and I think there's going to be like more integrated ways to do things. Like, and we're already seeing it with live streaming. We're seeing like companies like someone's putting out like a tool to like go live like on Facebook and Instagram at the same time, and Periscope or something like that. So I think like we're going to start seeing ways, and there might even be apps that like integrate everything into one spot. I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier about social media, I feel like there's so much strength in all the platforms, but people just, they prioritize where they have followers or what they personally like. But if you really want to leverage social media as like a marketer or something like that, I think it's all of them. So I think that there's value in all of the platforms, and there's going to be big ones. I guarantee you in the next 10 years, there's going to be another Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat type, YouTube type social network that pops up, maybe 2, maybe 3, that are going to be as equally strong.
Where do you see Facebook going? So like, I'm not ignorant to think that Facebook is always going to be here.
Yeah, but video and shows. I think Facebook's going to be TV.
You think it's going to become TV?
I think Facebook's going to become TV. We're already seeing a transition to video. We're seeing a transition to live. So now they're forcing live videos on you and showing different videos, and there's a whole video feed now. I think Facebook's going to become maybe integrated with TV, but I think Facebook is going to essentially become TV.
It's almost like a Netflix.
Maybe.
Or something.
Some big video focus.
So I analyze everything, and I go through the feeds just to see. Like, you'll see that video pop up when you're on something. Like, hey, this person's live.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. In Facebook Live, so you see every once in a while when I see a commercial, and I hardly watch TV, but if I'm in a coffee shop or something, I'll see where Facebook Live that shows an experience. They're promoting the hell out of Facebook Live right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so, have you noticed like organic traffic? I put videos out every day, so I'm watching like the viewership, and I noticed in the last 6 months, it's not because of my content, it's because they limit, it's pay to play. Let's be real.
It is, yeah.
It's pay to play, but there's strategies, and I'm testing. I'm like observing how it works. So for you, what are some hacks you've done with Influencive and with Facebook to be able to get more views without paying for them?
Totally. Okay, so here's a really valuable tip for Facebook pages. So what people do wrong is they force specific content that they want to their page. So they'll put like a link to their blog post every day, just over and over, nothing else. So the Facebook page is like, we don't want, that's like if I said to you, Brandon, you can eat crackers for the next 30 days, nothing else. You'd be like, screw you. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, no way. But that's what's happening with Facebook. They feed crackers to their page every day that Facebook doesn't want them, and the algorithm's not rewarding them. So what I've learned is by giving it what it wants, give it the dessert. So mixing in different links in different videos, live streams, images, links, native images, native video, different things, variety, giving it a balanced diet. Thinking about it like a diet, that's been one of the most valuable things. And another thing that people do is they cannibalize their own content. So they'll post like 10 things in a row. So like only the last one's probably going to get any traction. So they've already lost all the other ones. So you have to space things out the right way. And depending on how much content you're putting out and depending on the strength of your pages, make sure you're not putting stuff too much right in a row, or you're going to cannibalize your own stuff.
So what is the regular posting like for, what do you do on Influencive? So we do 2 posts a day?
Yeah, so we do 6 content pieces a day, which are not articles, so like no links. We do 2 articles a day, roughly, and then 6, so we'll do, I think 4 images, 4 images, 2 video, roughly a day. And that seems to be, and sometimes a text post too. Like, and here's the interesting thing about social media is everybody gets wrong. Social media is not a one-way conversation. It's not me just feeding my content to everybody. If you want to master social media, it's 2-way. The old way of social media was a parasocial relationship, one way. I'm just going to feed content to my audience.
Ask questions.
Ask questions. So I've learned on all platforms the more you can engage the audience, because then they're tagging people, they're commenting, you're boosting the algorithm. Even if you're slightly controversial sometimes, you're getting comments, you're getting engagement, positive, negative, whatever, doesn't matter, it's all engagement. So by creating real two-way conversation and having conversation, so think about social media less like putting out content and more like how do I elicit conversation? How do I get conversation going? How do I get engagement? That's what you want to think about more so than the content you're putting out. How do I get someone to respond? How do I get one person to respond? How do I get 10 people, 100 people? That's what you want to think about on social media. It's not about putting out content on a specific schedule. It is, obviously you have to do that, but it's more about how do I get conversation going.
Interaction with
Interaction, them. Real interaction.
That's
what gets traction.
What about Facebook Live? So how often, like when you do a Facebook Live, should you do one here and there, or should you do it every day? Like how should you vary that out?
I think there's lots of different strategies there. I don't do them that often. I do it like dessert for my page. Like, okay, we're gonna do a Facebook Live and it's a special treat. You could have a strategy where you do them every day and it could work, you know, depending on the engagement. If you find a way to create a daily conversation with your audience and something that they're super engaged with, and that could work every day. Yeah. But what I do is I treat it like dessert. Like I'm gonna give my page a dessert and do something special every now and then. So that's how.
It's all a combination.
Yeah, it's a combination.
So what's for you, I guess, what's the next step? So Influencive, but what's the next thing that you're focusing on to accomplish? Obviously with your goal with Influencive, what's the thing you're working on now for the next step?
I mean, really, it ties in with Influencive. I'm creating this community around we have writers, we have content creators, we have just cool friends that are doing awesome things together. So I think about business in general collaboratively. I don't think about, Brandon's making content too. I better not talk to him. I think about everything.
Which some people are, they're closed, which is so stupid.
My whole strategy is how can I put more people around me that are doing awesome things, and I'll help them as much as I possibly can because I see you're doing awesome things. So I want to do stuff with Brandon. He's doing awesome things, and it's not because I want anything in return. It's just because I know that supporting people and people.
The synergy in the mastermind, and that's why, hey, some people, I don't see competition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big world, but you're helping each other. Like a lot of people that are in the same industry as me, field, I love talking to them and like giving just, hey, how does this work for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I give people tips. I'll tell people super valuable tips all the time. Half of them don't use them, but the ones that do, they're like, wow, and I get that back too sometimes. So
that's why you're my favorite outlet, because I know that you really want to help people, and it's not like, oh, well, you can't let in, because you're open.
Yeah.
You're open to what it is. So this has been fun. There's a lot of good things I didn't expect to get out of this. So where can people, if they want to connect with you personally, where can they find you?
I think Twitter or Instagram, Brian D. Evans, probably the easiest way to do that. And then influencive.com, of course, to find content.
Awesome. For anybody listening, this guy, you have to connect with him. I love his platform, Influencive, and he's become a good friend. Like I love your vision, man. Like we have the same kind of thing, and I'm gonna be hanging out here a little more, so I'm looking forward to the Instagram Live. For all of you listening, you know what time it is? It is time to go out there, create something great, and become unforgettable, because life is too short not to. I'm Brendan C. Adams. We'll see y'all later.